This is the Mets Postcast, your instant game reaction for the New York Mets. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
The New York Mets still looking for their offense as they fall in the series finale to the Houston Astros by a final score of 2-1. Welcome into the Locked On Mets Postcast. I'm your host, Chris Schubert, back once again to recap everything that went on in Metsland today, as the Mets will have to wait to get to Miami to win their first series of the year, and hopefully while they are on their journey, they find their offense, because it is M.I.A. You see the pun there? Since they're going to Miami, abbreviation M.I.A. We'll leave the puns for a later time. I am Chris Schubert here on the Locked On Mets Postcast. Our record, since I have been doing these postcasts this season, 0-2. Ryan did one last night. They win the baseball game. I'm 0-2. We're going to file that one away and see if I can get my first win here sooner rather than later. The finale of this series, a big, huge pitcher's duel. Not sure when we got to the ballpark today and expected to see Spencer Arrighetti and Griffin Canning take the bump that it was going to be the pitcher's duel that it was, but that was indeed what we got on display today. Arrighetti went 6 innings, only allowed 1 hit, a Juan Soto double, only 1 earned run, that courtesy of Jose Siri. We'll get to that in just a second. And on the other side of things, and where we should probably start today's postcast, because I do not want him to be forgotten about, Griffin Canning making his first start as a New York Met, and a stat line that sees him carry the L, but boy, is that some tough luck to get the L in this game with how well I thought he pitched. 5 2/3, 4 hits, 2 runs, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, excuse me. And I think before the game, if you told anybody that Griffin Canning was going to take the ball into the 6th inning, or close to the 6th inning, and only allow 2 earned runs, you would have taken that. When Griffin Canning was signed in the winter as a depth piece of this rotation, there were a lot of eyebrows raised of what Griffin Canning could be, and I think this is another win, at least one start through. This is a huge win for the Mets pitching lab, because Griffin Canning looked really solid. That slider looked really good. He mixed in some changeups, did use the fastball, but the Mets believe in the stuff, and the pitching lab worked with Griffin Canning on that slider, worked on giving him a multitude of different fastballs, and I think you saw that on display today for somebody who was put into the first turn through the rotation in this first series, because the Mets like the way his stuff played against a right-handed dominant lineup in Houston. I don't think you could have asked any more from Griffin Canning. I thought it was tough to leave him in the game to face Yordan Alvarez, and if that's a gripe or a concern that you have from tonight's game of leaving Griffin Canning in when Jose Budo and that changeup is ready to go, to face Yordan Alvarez is kind of an equalizer. I get it. The bullpen decisions were a little interesting tonight, although shout out to Max Kranick, who, after 3 years away from the big leagues, got to make his first appearance for the New York Mets, the team he grew up rooting for, and that is a tough spot to come into a baseball game, and to get those 2 outs, including to get Yordan Alvarez and strand the bases loaded to give the Mets a chance in the top of the 9th, with this game still being 1 run. You tip the cap to Max Kranick, but very much was clear to me, don't know if it was clear to all of you, that Carlos Mendoza, I don't want to say allergic, but was adverse clearly in the early stages of the season to go to guys in back-to-back games. Used all of his high leverage relievers yesterday, right? Used AJ Minter, used Stanek, used Reed Garrett, had Edwin Diaz close it out. So you wanted to stay away from using those guys today. At least that was the appearance of things with the way that Mendoza handled late innings of this game, by using Budo for multiple innings and then using Max Kranick, the only other guy up until this point who hadn't gotten into the game. But the pitching overall, you can't complain when your entire staff goes out there and only gives up 2 runs overall. You have an offense that has Francisco Lindor, that has Juan Soto, that has Pete Alonso, that has Mark Vientos, that has Brandon Nimmo. I mean, the list goes on and on. 2 runs should be enough for you to win the baseball game. We'll get to that a little bit later on when we talk about what you'll be talking about here during the Mets off day tomorrow. But before we take a quick timeout, I think it's important to talk about Jose Siri and the job that he did in the 6th inning. And I've mentioned that we have these cool little segments, theme segments that we're going to do here on the postcast all throughout the year. You've got the what you'll be talking about. We'll try to get that into every single one of these postcasts. But we've also got our player of the game. Unfortunately, no player of the game award to give out until the Mets win. And we'll save that for when the team wins, and we'll keep track of how many player of the game awards we give out to each player throughout the course of this season. And then we have the turning point. And I'll tell you, I had it written down in my notes here what I felt the turning point of the game was going to be, because with the Mets trailing 1-0 and an offense that was lacking in this game last night, you had one guy who understood the situation and understood that he needed to manufacture a run, needed to create. And Jose Siri, who's known for being a free swinger, who's known for going up there and getting his fair share of hacks, he went up there and drew a really nice walk. Then he stole second. He tagged up on a ball to the outfield, and then a massively heads-up play to kind of goat Arrighetti into being a little cautious, looking him back. And the broadcast said that it wasn't really a lazy throw over to first base. I would tend to disagree with that. I thought it was very nonchalant. He kind of threw a little bit of a lollipop, and it popped up in the air a little bit, so Walker had to wait on it over at first. And Siri, with his speed, that's the element that he brings to this team. Good defense, speed, that power. The Mets are trying to tap into that all throughout the course of the year. And Siri created a run and created a huge run. And you saw the emotion. The Mets need to do more of that. Like, that's what the Mets are going. That's when they're going to be at their best. When you have guys at the top of the lineup that are setting the table and driving in runs, but also when the bottom part of the lineup, like Jose Siri when he's in there, Tyrone Taylor, Acuna, Beatty, when these guys get their opportunities, they got to create. They have to take advantage of these opportunities. And I think even though it was a loss for the Mets, that's one of those things that I think you'll take away from this game and be pretty excited about the energy that Jose Siri plays with, the heads-up way that he plays the game and taking advantage of a situation. Ask yourself this question. Is there anybody on the team for a majority of last year that makes that play? Is there anybody on the roster last year that you would feel comfortable making that play? I don't know. I don't think there's anybody that immediately comes to mind. Maybe Acuna when he came up late in the year last year, but this is a team that didn't have that element in their game last year for a large part of the season. They did tonight, but again, when you only have one hit and you don't score more than one run, you've scored 5 runs in 3 days. The question is going to be about your offense, and so that is going to be the focus of things when we come back here on the other side. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House, the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website. It's packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trademaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. There is nothing better than catching an MLB game live, the crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, and the smell of ballpark food. And if you're looking to go last minute, Gametime makes getting tickets easier than ever. With last-minute deals, all-in pricing, and a lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets, plus ticket prices drop as game times get closer, meaning you can score an incredible deal. Gametime, the official ticketing partner of Locked On Mets and the Locked On Mets postcast. And guess what? You're going to want to see this team. I know the offense was a little bit of a struggle over these last couple of days, but you're going to want to see this team. Gametime is the place that you can count on to grab tickets that meet your needs. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Welcome back into the Locked On Mets postcast. If you want even more thoughts about the New York Mets, make sure you're tuned into the Locked On Mets podcast. Ryan Finkelstein's got you covered over there. I've got you after each and every Mets game, give or take a few here or there, but I'll be your guy, and I will be the person that can lead us through our immediate thoughts after each and every one of these Mets games, and I can see it. I can see it in the YouTube comments. You're already looking for some lineup changes. Michael, I see you wanting to make a change for Pete Alonso. I can see the talk about Jose Siri almost getting picked off and almost out at the plate. I get all of that. I understand. I would just caution. We're 3 games in. I don't know if we need to make any lineup changes so far, but I understand the point behind that. And Wesley, yes, Jose Siri did almost get picked off, but almost it doesn't lead to an out. He was able to get the tag in there, and Walker didn't even really make any contact with him. I know it was close, but Siri did a really nice job getting out of the way, and also there was no tag. But love hearing your thoughts. Love hearing what you are feeling after this game. And one of the things we'll do here after each and every Mets game, and we're going to get you up to speed on all the things that we're going to do here during these Locked On Mets postcasts, is we're going to tell you, we're going to take a guess of what I think you'll be talking about tomorrow. So after this game and after this series, what will you be talking about tomorrow?
This is what you'll be talking about.
It's the Mets offense, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, that's what this is going to be about. That's what the conversation is going to be here after these first 3 games, and especially after today. You go 1 for 28 at the dish. You go 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position. Lindor went 0 for 2. Siri, Soto, Alonso, and Beatty each go 0 for 1. Vientos 0 for 2. You leave 4 guys on. You only had 1 hit in the game, so you didn't have really any opportunities. But with runners in scoring position, with some of the walks that you drew 4 walks, 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position. And I know it's only 1 series, but I do think this is something that we will be talking about, and it just has to be mentioned. Francisco Lindor is off to a rough start. Once again, Francisco Lindor is off to a slow start to the season. Now, I'm not going to jump him. We're not going to say that it's a problem, but we know that this is the case with Francisco Lindor, and we talked about him needing to get off to a good start this year because the Mets can't dig themselves the type of hole that they dug last year. Well, they're off to a rocky start in that regard because Francisco Lindor 0 for 4. I believe that takes him up to 0 for 11 or 0 for 12 for the season, and so that's your tone setter. That's the table setter. That's the guy that leads things off at the beginning of the game, and you want him to be on base in front of Francisco Lindor. I thought Pete Alonso has had some pretty bad at-bats. I think swinging at the first pitch after Soto draws a walk was a little bit of a question mark, and so there's just something missing right now. With a team that has this much talent, you know at some point things are going to break out. We would just like to see it because the expectation is that this team can score runs with the best of them, and let's face it, you got a good outing yesterday from Tyler McGill. You got what I would describe as a above average, good, if not great outing from Griffin Canning. Again, ask yourself before the season when spring started, if that was the line that you were going to see from Griffin Canning in his first start of the year, would you take it? And the answer was yes. But you got to turn those starts into wins. You have to turn those starts into victories. And they just didn't do that because they're not hitting right now. And this is not new. We've seen this before with this team with a slow start. And fortunately, unlike last year, they did get a win in the early start of the season. So they're not starting 0-3. They're 1-2. Hopefully traveling to Miami. Hopefully maybe getting to some warmer weather. Hopefully playing a team that they have done really well against in the past, and a team that, let's face it, is not supposed to be very good this season, that those bats break out. But that is what you'll be talking about tomorrow. That's what I'll be keeping an eye on here as we transition into the Miami series. A weird Sunday off day, ladies and gentlemen. A weird Sunday off day for the New York Mets, who played 2 nationally televised games. So they played last night on Apple TV. They played today on Fox. And so now it is the rare Sunday off day before they are back at it on Monday against the Miami Marlins. We will be right here on the Locked On Mets YouTube channel and in the Locked On Mets podcast feed after each game of the Miami series. So we'll see if this offense is able to break out. Appreciate everybody being here, everybody joining us here on these Locked On Mets postcasts. For those of you that are new, maybe you are a first-time listener or viewer to these Locked On Mets postcasts. Listen, these are going to be short. 15 to 20 minutes, instant reaction. Your thoughts always welcome, but we're going to keep these brief and just our instant thoughts, our instant reactions to everything that happened in this game. Disappointing for the Mets to lose this one. All 3 games of the series winnable for the New York Mets. So to see them be 1-2 and to see their bats go this cold is obviously frustrating, but I will remind you, 3 games in the books, 159 to go. So all of the comments I see in the chat about people being done with this season, can we maybe just wait at least one more week? Okay. Can we wait? We wait until at least I get one win on the board as the Locked On Mets postcast host for this season before we maybe talk about being done with this team. It's early. 3 games in, 159 to go. And we will be there for game number 4 of the season on Monday after they take on the Miami Marlins. But that is going to do it for us here on the Locked On Mets postcast. The Mets fall 2-1 to the Houston Astros. They lose their first series of the year, and they'll have to wait until they get to Miami to get their first series win of the season. And we will be here to break it all down on the Locked On Mets YouTube channel and the Locked On Mets podcast feed during the Locked On Mets postcast. Everybody have a great rest of your weekend. We will talk to you on Monday after the Mets take on the Marlins. Have a good one, everybody.